Powerful insights often occur when you least expect them. On Transformative Leadership Conversations, they're at the heart of every episode. Hi, I'm your host, Winnie da Silva, and together we're exploring a spectrum of leadership themes through the compelling stories and insights of seasoned leaders and prominent experts. So, in each episode, you'll walk away with inspiration, strategies, and tools to enhance your leadership, build effective teams, and lead thriving organizations. So this month, I have been celebrating 20 years since I started my leadership consulting and coaching business. The first episode in this 20-year celebration series was a reflection on my career journey, what I've learned about leadership, risk, and the long game of building a business I love. And last week, I shared the lie almost every leader believes. For this final episode in my 20-year anniversary series, I have a confession to make. So after 20 years of coaching and teaching leaders and building teams, there's still one question I sometimes struggle to answer. And that question is this: can people really change? Where do you land on this question? Have you ever witnessed people in your life making transformative changes? Have you ever made a big change in your life? Okay, let's first take a step back and get behind the possible real question here. When someone asks this question, can people really change? Like, who are they asking about? Are they asking, can I really change? Or are you asking if the proverbial, can they really change? You know where this is going, right? Because the truth is, we only have control over our own mind and our own behavior. Only you can change you, full stop, right? Now, of course, you can help, influence, encourage, and hope that other people change. Yes to all, but only if they want to change. More on that in a minute. So when I work with leaders, the question of change often comes down to this. Are we talking about changing who you are or how you show up? Sometimes leaders are asked to make changes that feels like it's kind of going against their natural personality. So for example, I had a client, I'll call him Marty, who was a senior executive at an investment bank. So he was working on being promoted to partner. Marty is a very accomplished and capable executive, especially in his area of expertise. He's also a quiet and reserved person. He's not loud or showy, and he's the type of person who's excelled in his career, well, by doing really good work and building strong, trusted one-on-one relationships with everybody he works with. So, of course, prior to kicking off our coaching engagement, like I usually do, I interviewed the people who work with him. The feedback affirmed his positive traits. Team player, works well one-on-one with direct reports, peers, and clients, and has deep industry expertise. He also received feedback that touched on the areas that could hold him back from a promotion, which could be summarized like this. You're a trusted expert and people want to hear from you, but we'd like to see you project even more confidence and authority. Own the room. Take a clear point of view and share it without caveats. Be more concise, polished, and assertive so your expertise comes through with conviction. Okay, pretty good feedback. Now, does this mean that Marty couldn't demonstrate confidence and authority because his natural personality was quieter and more reserved? I mean, of course not. The question wasn't whether he could project confidence. It was really how. Could he use his strengths, his calm presence, his ability to connect one-on-one, to project that same confidence, but in different situations? He didn't need to change his personality or turn himself into the loudest voice in the room. What he needed was to tap into that core strength, the quiet, grounded confidence people already trusted, and learn how to bring that forward in new ways, especially in rooms where the stakes were higher and the energy that was required was bigger. Now, that is people changing, not their core personality, but in fact using their core strengths that they already exhibit within their personality and perhaps use those strengths in a different way. But here's the real caveat to transformational change. You can only change if you really want to. And even once you've decided to, it can be very difficult to do in isolation. Because change doesn't happen in a vacuum. It usually happens within relationships. Every real transformation I've ever witnessed has been shaped by the people around it. The coach who asks the right questions at the right time, the boss who believes in you before you even believe in yourself, or the colleague who gives you feedback you didn't want to hear, but you needed to. Relationships, I believe, are the scaffolding of change, not just because they support us, but because they stretch us. They can uncover our blind spots. They can give us a new perspective, offer healthy friction, and of course, accountability. People can help us see the gap between who we are and who we're becoming. They remind us of our strengths when we've lost sight of them, and they challenge us to step into something bigger. Change might start with a decision, but it only becomes real when it's reflected back to us in how others experience and respond to us differently. After 20 years of coaching, I've noticed that people change in a few different ways. Sometimes change is chosen, right? We go after it, we invite it in, we really want it. It starts on the inside with a real desire to change who we are, what we believe in, or who we want to become. But sometimes change is forced upon us. We end up being compelled to change. Life hands us cards we'd rather not play, like an event happens that unwillingly calls for us to change. This change starts on the outside and demands that we change. So if you cross those two lines, chosen or compelled, internal or external, you get four kinds of change. So there's these four. Number one, intentional transformation, the internal chosen kind when we decide to grow from the inside out. Two, deliberate reinvention, the external chosen kind when we take that growth and turn it into action. Three, situational upheaval, when something outside of us changes us and we have to adjust. And then there's the fourth, identity disruption, when something inside of us cracks open and we have to redefine who we are. Now, of course, life really never fits neatly into a box or into any couple of boxes. Most of the time, people move through more than one of these types of change all at once. So let me share two stories from my work with executives on what this looks like. Okay, the first story is talking about intentional transformation to deliberate reinvention. So a few years ago, I worked with a woman who told me she wanted to be a CEO someday. She was ambitious, capable, and she had a very strong track record. But she carried this belief, maybe she didn't even realize it, that she kind of had to wait her turn. She wanted it, but she didn't think maybe she wasn't ready. And at one point I said to her, I actually think maybe you could be ready now. Maybe you could just start talking to people, start looking for CEO opportunities, and just see what's out there. Do you think you'd be ready to at least explore these possibilities? So she paused for a minute. I could almost see her recalibrating the whole kind of assumptions she was making. Like before she hadn't let herself believe that this was even a possibility that was maybe even as close as it was. Her idea of kind of quote unquote ready had been something really distant, something that would come after a few more jobs that she could prove that she was really ready. But in this moment, her mind shifted. She let herself imagine that maybe she was ready right now. Of course, not perfectly ready. That never happens, but, kind of ready enough. That moment became the turning point, the start of her internal transformation. She began to question the story she'd been telling herself about readiness and permission, and how often those two things get confused. Once that shift took hold, her behavior changed pretty quickly. She began speaking about her leadership differently, showing up differently, positioning herself for the kind of role she wanted now. She stopped minimizing what she'd accomplished and started having conversations about the opportunities that she once felt maybe were out of reach. Believe it or not, 14 months later, she is now a CEO. Didn't take her long, did it? She didn't get that CEO title because something about her suddenly changed. She got it because she finally gave herself permission to act on what she wanted. She tapped into the desire to be a CEO now, not someday. She came to that role with the same experience, skills, and leadership capacity that she had before, but with a different belief about what was possible. So that's intentional transformation and deliberate reinvention working together. So an internal shift that sparked external action. Okay, my next story deals with the other two: situational upheaval and identity disruption. Another client I worked with had just started a new leadership role. It was a big one, and he was genuinely excited about it. But honestly, almost right away, he started to become deeply discouraged. So this is what happened. The company had pulled together a team for him, people from all over the organization, and honestly dropped them into his lap. He didn't pick them, they didn't pick him. And many of them were not happy about it. They were not happy about being moved. Many of those people didn't have the right experience. And honestly, some just didn't want to be there. So from day one, it was truly an uphill battle. The team didn't gel. More than a few people resisted direction. And the results, they just weren't there. After a few months of trying to fix it, he started turning the problem into himself. And he said to me one day, maybe I'm just not a good people leader. That's what situational upheaval looks like. Something external happens that just throws you off or challenges you. But what made this hard wasn't just the situation itself, it was how he was interpreting and thinking about the situation. He started to solely blame himself. This experience became an identity disruption. He began to doubt his own instincts, his credibility, even his confidence in the kind of leader he'd always believed himself to be. So our work together was really to separate out what was real from what was not real and what was his reaction to the situation. The truth was, he'd been handed a team that wasn't set up to succeed. And part of his job wasn't to make the best of it, but to decide what needed to change and take action. So once he saw that clearly, he began to make adjustments, reorganizing the team, letting people go, finding top people to replace them, and taking a lot of time to build trusted relationships and set super clear expectations with the entire team. The situation improved immensely. But there was also a deeper shift that was happening too. He regained his sense of agency, and the confidence that he had that had been buried under that self-doubt came back stronger than before. So that's situational upheaval and identity disruption happening together. The outer chaos that sparks an inner recalibration. So these two stories are different. One began with a choice and the other with a challenge. But in both cases, the real turning point was the same. Each leader reclaiming their story, who they were, what they were capable of, and what they were going to do about it. So change doesn't always look so dramatic. Sometimes it's quiet, a mindset shift that happens long before anyone else sees it. And sometimes it's really big and messy, right? A season where the circumstances you didn't choose force you to grow anyway. So can people really change? I've seen it over and over again, but rarely in isolation. Change starts with a decision, but it really takes relationships in your world to sustain it. Someone to hold up a mirror, someone to help you see what's true and what's just a story you've been telling yourself. Because people do change, sometimes by choice, sometimes by necessity, but always through connection. Thank you for listening to this episode of Transformative Leadership Conversations. If you're ready to take your leadership to the next level or empower your teams for success, I'm here to help. Reach out to me directly at winnie@winifred.org or check out my website at www.winniedasilva.com to learn more about my work in coaching executives, developing critical leadership skills, or working with clients to build effective teams. You can also find me on Substack, LinkedIn, and now on YouTube. Because you are always welcome to take a seat at the table where every conversation has the potential for transformative change.